Welcome back to my YouTube channel Biology Notes. So our today's topic is menstrual cycle. In this we'll cover all the phases, all the events in the menstrual cycle. और इस वीडियो के बाद आपकी menstrual cycle एकदम टिप पे हो जाएगी. So we'll come to NCERT afterwards. So first I will explain this diagram to you. अगर आपने ये diagram अच्छे से समझ लिया तो आपको मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल में और कुछ बाकी पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. ये कॉन्सेप्ट है मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल समझने के लिए. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद आवर वीडियो. सो इन आवर ब्रेन देयर इज़ अ हाइपोथैलेमस. ओके, हाइपोथैलेमस releases gonadotrophin releasing hormones which is in the anterior pituitary. Okay, so they releases LH and FSH. As you can see, luteinizing hormone and FSH. Okay, these two hormones are released by hypothalamus by the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, so this is the follicular phase. Because on the release of LH and FSH, follicles develop. Okay, these events are taking place in the ovary. Okay, so the follicular development take place. As you can see, the follicular growth is there. Okay, so in this phase follicular growth is there, and then when the follicular growth is there, the estrogen hormone is released, and due to the release of the estrogen and high levels of estrogen, release of egg or ovulation. Okay, the egg in this follicular is released, and which is called release of the egg, which is called ovulation phase. Okay, so the release of the egg is called ovulation. Okay, when the estrogen levels are high. After that, when the egg is released, okay, the follicular is turned into the corpus luteum. Okay, it degenerates and converts into the corpus luteum, and this is called luteal phase. Okay, this is called luteal phase, and this corpus luteum produces progesterone and estrogen. Okay, these progesterone and estrogens are in a very high amount because of this corpus luteum. So this is very important in this. Many questions are there on this topic of corpus luteum and progesterone and estrogen hormones. So these release of progesterone and estrogen gives the negative feedback to the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. Okay, so this negative feedback controls the progesterone and estrogen levels. Okay, it decreases the progesterone and estrogen level. Okay, so the low estrogen gives to the menstruation. Okay, when the progesterone and estrogen levels are decreases, it is called menstruation. Okay, then the menstruation happens, and this is called menstruation. And the low H and low LH degenerates the corpus luteum. Okay, low level of LH degenerates the corpus luteum. Okay, so as you can see, there are three phases: follicular phase, ovulation phase, and luteal phase. Okay, and this hypothalamus is involved, anterior pituitary, LH and FSH hormones. Okay, which gives the follicular growth, and as you can see, estrogen releases the egg, which is called ovulation. Then it degenerates into corpus luteum, which produces progesterone and increases the level of progesterone and estrogens. Okay, so then they themselves gives the negative feedback to the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. Okay, so this is mainly the menstrual cycle. Okay, you have to understand this. So now comes to the NCERT. Okay, so we will see the NCERT part after this. So the reproductive cycle in the female primate is called menstrual cycle. Okay, it is the reproductive cycle in the female primates, which is called menstrual cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty is called menarche. First menstrual cycle, menarche. Okay, beginning of the menstrual cycle is called menarche. In human females, menstruation repeated at an average interval of about 28 to 29 days. Okay, in human female, a menstruation is repeated at the interval of 28 to 29 days. The cycle of the events starting from one menstruation to the next one is called menstrual cycle. Okay, so these events which are taking place is called menstrual cycle. So there are major 4 events in the menstrual cycle, which is uterine events, ovarian hormone level, ovarian events, pituitary hormone level. Okay, so there are menstruation, follicular phase, luteal phase, and next cycle begins. So this is a very famous NCRT diagram. Okay, you have to learn this. Okay, so as a board perspective and for NEET also, so this diagram is very important. Okay, so as you can see, this is a uterine event. Okay, so in first we'll see the uterine event. Okay, so at the beginning of the menstruation, this is menses. Okay, the blood is coming in this, so this is called menses. In follicular phases, the proliferative phase. Okay, then the endometrium regenerates itself. It starts regenerating itself after the menstruation. Okay, in the luteal phase, it regenerates itself to the fullest. Okay, and then when the next cycle begins, it degenerates. Okay, when the fertilization does not happen, it degenerates. So it is called the uterine events. Okay, these events are taking place in the uterus. So in the ovarian hormone levels, okay, as you can see, ovarian hormones are estrogen and progesterone. So the estrogen goes to the peak at the follicular phase. Okay, so because of the increase of the estrogen, ovulation happens. As we have studied earlier, when the estrogen is high or at the peak, ovulation happens. Okay, and the progesterone increases after the ovulation. Okay, during the corpus luteum, the estrogen increases, and you can see progesterone increases at the corpus luteum phase. So as you can see in and estrogen is the only hormone which increases 2 times. Okay, first at the time of the ovulation and another at the regression of the corpus luteum. Okay, so next comes the ovarian events. This is the developing follicle, this is mature follicle, then ovulation happens at the mid of the menstrual cycle. Okay, then developing of the corpus luteum, then the regression of the corpus luteum. So these are the ovarian events. So next comes is the pituitary hormone levels. Okay, so these pituitary hormone levels, they both peak at the mid of the ovulation. Okay, at the mid of the cycle, they peaks at the mid of the cycle. Okay, FSH and LH peaks at the mid of the cycle, which is on the day of the ovulation. Okay, they promotes ovulation. Okay, so this is the diagram you have to learn, and some other points are: the corpus luteum secretes a large amounts of the progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Okay, progesterone is for the endometrium, which means for the pregnancy also progesterone tablets are given to maintain the endometrium. Okay, during pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stops and there is no menstruation during the pregnancy, as the progesterone levels are very high. So the menstruation stops. Okay, because the egg fertilizes. In human beings, menstrual cycle ceases around 50 years of age, which is called menopause. Okay, so it ceases at the age of 50 years, which is called menopause. So this is menstrual cycle. So everything will be coming from this only. So please, if you like my channel, please subscribe, share and like and comment. Thank you.